This week's Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff's Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com.
Welcome to another edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today. I shouldn't clap because that messes up my audio, right? We are talking today with Sarah Rose from Georgia Public Broadcasting on the radio side. Good afternoon, Sarah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a lovely afternoon here. Well, it'll be a lovely afternoon when I put this on the air, on the internet waves next week as well. But, we're in between hurricanes and storms, right? So that's all good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time. I know I have my list of people I want to talk to, and you've been on my list for a while. So
I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm excited to speak with you.
Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity for folks to kind of get to know you, and you guys are doing great work over there at GPB, and I know you've got some job openings, so we can talk about that, I think, too. All that fun stuff. It's a great time to be in media. There seems to be a lot of opportunities in Metro Atlanta. But tell me first what your role is at GPB and kind of what your job is and what you focus on.
Yeah, I'm a journalist in the newsroom here at GPB. I am also the one of two news writers for our biweekly Georgia Today newsletter, which we send out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I've been at GPB now. My 2 years will be next month, actually. So
time flies, huh?
Yeah.
And I guess so to put it in perspective for folks who don't know the reach of GPB, because folks don't always. How many radio stations? How much of the state do you guys cover?
We cover the whole state. I want to make sure I get the number right for how many towers we have now, but we have quite a few stations throughout the state. We have a Savannah bureau, and we broadcast all throughout the great state of Georgia these days.
Yeah, I think you guys. I think I saw a number once that it was like 98% of people in Georgia can get Georgia Public Radio if they try, right?
We are blanketed around the state at this point.
Yeah. And do you guys still have a Macon bureau too?
We do not anymore.
Okay.
We're reporting in Macon, but we don't have a dedicated Macon bureau.
Okay, cool. All right. So do you have a particular focus area, or are you just kind of covering kind of stories of the day?
That's kind of the thing now. I think when the pandemic hit, it didn't matter what our beat was. It was sort of we all kind of had to turn our focus towards covering what it meant for Georgia and the community and how it reached out no matter what you were covering. Before that, I sort of had a twofold interest in covering human interest stories and also arts and culture stories when I wasn't doing general reporting. I still try to do that a little bit, though. I mean, the scope of that has changed now because the arts community has been affected so much by the pandemic.
Right.
And
yeah.
We haven't really seen a lot of concerts, lately. The venues around the state are just starting to come back. So it's a different kind of story now, but I try to touch on it when I can.
Yeah. And I know sometimes, like some radio reporters have to turn a story every day. Are you doing something every single day?
That's my goal. Yeah, I try to. I usually report on one or two things a day, and then we also, like I said, we do our newsletter as well. So when I'm not doing in the field reporting, I'm helping to get the newsletter out every Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay. And what's your kind of work history background before you got to GPB?
Yeah, I had a little bit of an unconventional path towards becoming a journalist. I worked in the nonprofit sector for about 5 or 6 years prior to being at GPB in public relations and media outreach. I worked for an organization called Care2 for a few years, and I also worked for a few other different nonprofits that did advocacy both here in Georgia and around the country. And then prior to my nonprofit career, I worked as a legislative assistant in Congress for Representative Phil Gingrey.
Ah, very good. Okay. Wow. So you got a little bit of a political background too, which I'm sure helps. And because there are some, a couple of political stories percolating around Georgia the last year or two, right?
Maybe a few. So.
Yeah, we got one or two people trying to get that Warnock Senate seat now, and some who live in Georgia and some don't, but
it's pretty surreal, isn't it? I mean, I think that, for people who've lived here a long time, we've seen a lot of this kind of coming for a few years, but I think it's wild to see it sort of manifest and now that the state's a swing state and there's all this sort of weird political shifting going on. It's fascinating to cover as a journalist for sure.
Are you seeing a lot of your stories getting picked up nationally?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, Stephen Fowler, who's sort of our rock star political reporter, he's the guy that's really getting a lot of these things covered and handled, and it's great to see his reporting. But yeah, I'm right behind him as well as the rest of our colleagues on covering sort of the political side of things for sure.
Yeah, he's he's all over the place. Yeah,
He's,
he'll
I don't
pop
know
up.
how he does it. Yeah, he's incredible.
Well, when you're young, you don't have to sleep, right?
Right? Yeah. What is sleep really?
Sleep later.
Sleep is a construct.
Yeah, he was doing the. I think I saw him at the Senate debates last fall, and somebody from MSNBC was there, and it's like, hey, do you know that Stephen Fowler guy? It's like, you think you can get him? And it's like,
He's a rock star.
I'm not his publicist, but yeah, sure. I think he's right over there.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Hey, Steven, they want you on NBC in about 20 minutes. Can you do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll brag on Stephen all day, every day. Nobody works harder in the business in Georgia than he does.
Well, he's gotten some great stories, so it shows. So obviously, a lot of reporters had things changed last year in terms of your access to people in person. How did that affect how you were doing your job last year?
Yeah, I mean, so many things shifted really quickly. We went from being in the newsroom every day to working mostly remotely. And while that was happening, we also had to report on the protests that were happening last year, the spike of COVID, the onset of how it affected our healthcare system and businesses, music venues. So I had to learn really quickly how to be very adaptable without having that newsroom support behind me in a lot of ways. I had to figure out how I was going to be mobile in my reporting, flexible with the gear I had, and how I was going to file stories. And that's a really big lesson to learn while the world is slowly falling apart, or it feels like it's falling apart. But I've gotten a grip on it now, and I think that it's interesting. Now I'm really able to report from pretty much anywhere in the state with the gear I have, and I don't think that would have been true pre-pandemic. Like, I really feel like we've all become very adaptable to getting our stories done anywhere with whatever circumstances we're handed.
Yeah, I've found a lot of radio reporters are using Zoom or similar kind of streaming services just because the audio quality is so much better and reliable than a cell phone.
Absolutely, yeah. I've grown to love Zoom and being able to use audio from it.
Yeah, there's another one called Squad something.
There's a few. Yeah, there's like that one. Like, I've seen some people using Skype again, which is like kind of a
Skype. I remember that one.
Yeah, it's like Skype that's making a comeback. I've actually seen some people using Discord to do stuff. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I haven't touched Skype in probably a year and a half.
Me either.
Interesting. So, are there kind of topics in the back of your head that you think here's a story I want to cover? I think down there, not to give away anything investigative or deep or anything, but
well, I can tell you some stuff that we've been following that's really part of my fascination right now is the ongoing struggle that music venues are going to be having going into the next year. I think a lot of people thought maybe we were getting out of the woods, with the rise of the vaccines. That's clearly not the case with the Delta variant. A lot of these music venues throughout Georgia have still not received their funding from the Save Our Stages Act, which got passed earlier this year. They're still waiting on federal assistance from that they were promised. So I think, especially in a city like Atlanta and a state like Georgia, where music is such a fundamental part of our culture and our identity, that's going to be an interesting story to cover, to see what survives, what comes out of it, where our arts and music culture goes. And I think there's also other stuff too, like Dragon Con, right? We're going to see what that's going to be like in about a week from now. They're going to go forward as it stands right now, and I think everyone's curious to see what that looks like at a convention that typically has 95,000 people. Can they do that at a diminished capacity and still be safe? So that's something we're going to be following pretty intensely.
Both my kids are at college now, so this will probably be the first year in, almost 15 years probably that I haven't done Dragon Con. I did go last year without them because I sometimes have more fun without the kids.
This
But
is this is going to be probably what, like my 15th year going. Save for last year when we none of us went, but yeah, it's a part of my family's like Atlanta tradition, pretty much.
yeah, we do a lot of work with Momocon, and I think they're hopefully next year they'll be back full bore back in the Cargill Center and bigger than ever. But yeah, it's hit a lot of that. I've got some clients in the entertainment space, and that side seems to be coming back. The
Yeah.
sound stages and people that are kind of the equipment rental and all the different things that go into the entertainment industry.
And I
Um,
don't think a lot of people realize how much of a fandom culture really exists in Atlanta. I mean, I think probably one of the best cities you can be in if you really like the convention experience and going to a lot of cons and having that really and like one-on-one experience with your fandom. Like there's Momocon, there's Dragon Con, there's Anime Weekend Atlanta. I mean, all of those are huge and draw like thousands of people.
yeah, I mean, I did my first Momocon, I don't know, a couple 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just amazing. The dedication of the fans is really incredible, and I know we'll get back to it. They've been Momocon's been pretty successful last year doing it online. They got a lot of interest, but people want to be there. They want to bring their costumes. They want to do their photography. They want to see their people. So we'll get back to that. I know it's just everybody wants it to be sooner rather than later. So hopefully we can do that. All
Yeah.
right. So now the really hard questions. So it's always a hard question for every week when I do this is
Yeah.
what's something cool about Sarah that people might not know, and this could be a hobby, a talent, anything that's kind of fun and cool about Sarah.
I'm really uncool, so that's a hard question.
See, but you just told me you're into Momocon and Dragon Con, so you're not you're there.
I mean, I'm a pretty big nerd, so I love Star Wars. I love the X Files. Those are like my two big. I could do a whole other podcast just about the X Files. um, I do play in a band. I sing in a band that's signed to a Warner Records subsidiary, and so I do that when I'm not a journalist, and I tour around and sing in it. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. All right, let's give the name of the band so people can find it.
The band is called Sarah and the Safe Word.
Very good, very good. And I think I saw you've posted about that. I think I've seen that on
Yeah.
some of your social. Some
Yeah.
good stuff. Yeah. All right. So last, I've altered this question a little bit. So last book read or last podcast you listened to.
Yeah, the last book that I've been really obsessed with is actually it's a graphic novel that was written by my friend Stan Stanley that I recommend everyone read, and it's brilliant. It is called The Hazards of Love. It's going to be coming out. It's out now actually on Simon and Schuster, and people should check it out. It's a really great story of queer identity and finding yourself and asking big questions about who you are. And Stan's incredible. So yeah, that's my big one right now.
All right. Favorite local restaurant?
Oh, Battle and Brew is great, and I've been really into Little Trouble as well. That's a really
Ooh,
cool bar.
I don't know that one. Where's that one?
That one is over on the north side. If you know where like the West Egg is over there, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's near there.
Little Trouble. Okay.
Little Trouble, great. Yeah,
Any particular is that particular cuisine or?
it's kind of based around Blade Runner. Like that's the theme of the bar.
Oh,
So it's got like kind of an Asian fusion menu and really cool cocktails.
okay.
Yeah,
That sounds cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. All right.
for sure.
Favorite guilty pleasure?
I love sour candy. Way
Sour
too much.
candy. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. You and Rose Scott with the funky candies.
100%.
Favorite local getaway?
Local getaway. I recently went kayaking in New Harley, Georgia, and I'm people who know me know I'm not an outdoorsy person, but I had a good time kayaking in New Harley, so that might be my new favorite getaway.
Yep. I love being on the water. Okay. Favorite non-work hobby?
Ooh, besides music, I really enjoy writing and not news writing. I like doing fiction writing. would like to put out a book one day of some
Cool.
of, yeah.
I was talking with Melissa Carter, who was on a couple of radio stations, but she said she spent the last year writing comic books.
Oh, cool.
So I don't think she's published yet, but she's promised me that when she gets them, she'll send them my way, because I still have about 10 boxes of comics in my basement. So
I love comics. I'm so obsessed with them. So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll write comics. That's a good idea.
there you go. I think there's a resurgence, and I've started kind of some of the older comics that I can't find. I just find them digitally on my Kindle, and it's kind of easy way to read them. So we were talking earlier, kind of one of the things that we were talking about was you are. I was saying earlier that you're the only transgender journalist in Atlanta, and you told me not just that.
I will say I don't think I'm the only transgender journalist in Atlanta. There are some great student journalists and people in other orgs, but I think that unless I'm wrong, and I've been told that this is the case, I'm the first openly trans journalist to be broadcast on the radio in the state of Georgia statewide. I think that's the case. So.
Excuse me. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that. Are there some groups that you would recommend as kind of advocate groups for journalists?
Well, I'm a card-carrying member of the Trans Journalists Association, which is a great org that advocates for the visibility of gender nonconforming journalists across the country. They also have a really great style book that they provide free of charge for journalists when it comes to covering gender nonconforming, transgender issues, and queer issues, which I recommend everyone download because it's a great resource to have. Yeah, but I love the TGA, and I'm a proud member of it and happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have noticed not this GPB, but a lot of digital media sites are changing how the kind of the descriptors of how they refer to their people, and people are, I think, getting more into the habit of doing that on their Twitter descriptions and social media as well.
We started including pronouns in our email signatures at GPB as of last month, so that was pretty cool.
Cool. All right. Let's see. Anything that we haven't talked about that we should have talked about?
I think that it's a really interesting time for being a queer journalist, and I think that more newsrooms could benefit from hiring people from the queer and trans community in Georgia. I don't want to be the only person on the radio that's trans. Like, we should have more trans journalists in our state. So, yeah.
I think there are. I'm trying to think. I don't want to name people who may not want to be named, but I think the community is more prevalent in local media, perhaps, than people think, whether they're
I agree.
Public about it or not. Yeah. But I think diversity in the newsrooms is key in any case.
Yeah.
Diversity of all kinds. And I know some newsrooms have made more of an effort than others, but I just feel like it brings perspective, right?
Yeah.
I had some Asian journalists tell me when they were covering the shootings recently, a lot of the conversations they had in their newsrooms just about pronouncing the names, right?
Yeah.
Pronouncing the names correctly. And some journalists were like, "Oh, it doesn't matter how I pronounce it. I'm going to do the best I can." And the Asian journalists were like, "Well, yes, but if I tell you how to do it correctly, you should do it correctly." And I think the Asian American Atlanta Journalists Association actually put out a audio kind of a style book of like, here's how you pronounce the names so you don't screw it up. But
this job is about people, right? Like, it's about how we all interact with each other. So if we lose sight of that and we forget, that we're reporting on humans and what humans are doing, then we're not doing a very good job as journalists, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And Atlanta, man, such a diverse community, both, in every possible way, from economics to ethnic groups and sexual preference. I mean, anything and everything.
What an interesting city. I mean, it always surprises me, the the direction it goes and how the community grows and changes and shifts. It's become such a fascinating part of America, you know?
Yeah, I part of the fun of being, I'm kind of in the North Lake, DeKalb County area, so I love going and trying to find restaurants and foods that I haven't tried before.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I was telling somebody earlier, I was talking to, I was like, there's an Ethiopian place near me called Desta that we just love. Yeah, it's just awesome. It's great. It's great food. Right. It took us a couple of times to kind of figure out how to order and what to order, right?
It's a tricky menu, but yeah, when you get it, the food there is killer. It's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, cool. Sarah Rose, thank you for taking some time to chat with us today. This has been another edition of our 4 Questions Journalist Spotlight.